Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Autism at Home. This is our 28th series, and it's all about food challenges when it comes to children on the spectrum. And we're so excited to have here with me today. We have the honor of having Kim Knippel, our BCBA, all the way from Madison, Wisconsin in the USA. Now, we've worked with Kim for almost 7 years now, since 2017. She's actually been faithfully reviewing our kiddos at EAP almost every year, I think, since then. She's an excellent clinician, and we're just so happy to have her join us for this last lesson on frequently asked questions when it comes to food challenges. So maybe, Kim, over to you first. Could you just tell us a bit about yourself, your work over the years? We'd love to get to know you a bit more.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to be here, really excited to be a part of this series. Joe, as you've mentioned, I've been working with EAP for almost 7 years now. I've met the families. I've been there in person twice to see what the amazing culture is like and the people, and just to be able to be a part of EAP was wonderful. So I'm really excited to be joining this series now as something new. In my time as being a clinician, I have been in the field for almost 20 years now. I've worked with a variety of kiddos from ages 18 months old all the way up to 30 plus years. I've worked on communication, food challenges, sleep challenges, toilet training, behaviors that we're looking to reduce, behaviors that we're looking to increase. So a lot of different things that I've been able to do over the years, and a lot of new challenges that have always come up. So it's always exciting and fun, and I just absolutely love being a part of, everything for these kiddos and the families to help support them.
Wow, thank you so much, Kim, for sharing that. We really learn so much from you every time you review our kiddos at EAP, every time we meet you, every time you do trainings for our team. You have such a wide breadth of experience. And I think that's the reality with the spectrum, isn't it? There is such like the famous quote says, if you've met a child with autism, you've met one child with autism, because of the spectrum, mildly affected, some are more affected. And then, like you said, there's food challenges, sleep challenges, toileting. Those are some of the pretty difficult ones to tackle, along with challenging behaviors. And also, we're so excited to have you for this series because, of course, there are many questions that we have as well. And so just a quick summary for everyone else listening or watching is that we have just completed like an introduction on this series and asking parents to get the information of what food your child is willing to eat. We've talked a bit about starting right, or trying to start with some healthy routines. If you haven't already started any eating routines, we talk about increasing food tolerance, like naturally, so like a variety of foods, but in a much more natural way. Then for those that struggle to learn in a more incidental way, we can actually do a much more systemized approach to teaching food tolerance. We also came in our series so far also talk a bit about hiding or sneaking in some nutrition. I know we've talked about that over the years, whether it's through ice popsicles, whether it's through muffins, and shredding a little bit of carrot to get in there something a bit healthier for our kiddos. And then, of course, lastly was how to sit and eat independently, try to sit at the table and eat without screens. So we're definitely going to ask you a bit about that. But I think the main thing, Kim, is there are certain children on the spectrum that just cannot eat other foods. I think that's the biggest challenge, and we just thought maybe let's just tackle that first. It's either they're only willing to eat very, very limited foods, like we've worked with kids that will only eat French fries from McDonald's and nothing else, or only biscuits and a certain type of biscuit. And if you try to put any other food, they get aggressive, they avoid it, they leave, they throw up, or refuse to eat. And then you've got some kiddos we worked with one little girl years ago who only drank milk, and she was already like 7 years old, and she would refuse to eat anything. So maybe would you be able to answer a bit of that first, or give us an overview of that and the approach to supporting that?
Sure. I think There's a lot of kiddos out there that have a very limited diet or have very specific foods that they enjoy eating, and getting them to try other foods is really difficult. So this is something that we come up against for a lot of the families that we've worked with over the years. And when it comes to something like this, we want to try and make this a really positive experience for both the individual that we're trying to expand their food menu, as well as the families too. We don't want it to be too stressful, put too much stress on either individual involved, because then it's just going to fail for everyone. It's not going to be a pleasant experience. So we really try and look at reinforcement. Everything we do for our clients is based around reinforcement and trying to see how can we make this more fun. So if your child is only eating French fries from McDonald's, thinking about how could we make that more fun? How could we build in reinforcement if we're going to gradually start to change those French fries? Looking at things like, will the child eat those French fries at home? Will they eat them in the community? Will they eat them at school? That could be a simple change to start with. It's still the same food, but we're eating it in a different location. Maybe it's even a different spot in the home. Instead of on the floor in front of the TV or with the screen, maybe it's at the table or it's at the kitchen counter. So trying to make some of those small changes too, and then bringing in that reinforcement. If the child engages in eating these French fries in a different location or a different setting, what is the payout for that, right? What is the reward for that? We all need reinforcement. We all need that motivation to do something that's really hard for us. So definitely looking at how can we add in reinforcement, and then looking at how can we make those small changes to some of that food, whether it's a different location. Maybe we take different French fries from another fast food restaurant that's very similar and we put them into the McDonald's container. We try making French fries from home and putting them into the McDonald's container, trying to make small changes. We can't go from eating French fries to eating broccoli. That won't go well for anyone. So how can we make just those really small changes? So usually too, when we're looking at, the clients we work with and expanding their food that they eat, I always like to say, let's start with a variation of something the kiddos are eating. So like I said, French fries from a different fast food restaurant, same shape of French fries from the grocery store. Or can we start with a food that the child used to eat but no longer does? Because then at least they know what that food is. They've been exposed to it. And especially if it's something you assume they liked in the past, then you might have more success there. And then again, bringing in that reinforcement. What is going to be the reinforcement? Do they get to watch a really special video? Do they get a special piece of candy that they're not allowed to have at other times? Do they get a new toy? Do they get playtime with mom? Do they get to go outside, go swimming? That can be all tied together, and we can use visuals to communicate that to our kiddos. Eat your French fries, you get to go swimming. Eat your apple, you get to go on the swings. Whatever that gradual change might be. I hope that I talk a lot, so I hope that helped. We might circle back to some of those things, I'm sure, but
no, I think that's so good, because I think it brings us back to the core basis of what we actually do in ABA. I know there's so much, and especially online, there's so many different variations and criticisms of it. But at the end of the day, it's really using reinforcement and really trying to encourage children with autism to learn by using their preferred items. But also what you said about making very small changes is to actually break skills down. And often at Autism at Home, we often talk about the 3 key ABA strategies, and it's very, very simple, just everyday use, break skills down, pair with reinforcement, and provide sufficient practice. And the more we practice, because maybe a parent tried it one time and it didn't work. But what you're saying is you actually got to keep trying, you got to keep persisting. We practice like every day, a few times every hour, maybe a little bit of that gradual exposure to build that sort of resistance and help them actually build that tolerance. At the end of the day, what we're talking about is helping a child build a tolerance to trying a new food or to trying something different. And I love like what you were saying also came about even just making a simple change that has nothing to do with the food, just eating somewhere else. And I think that is like really focusing on that overall flexibility piece, isn't it? And as you were saying that, I was just reminded also for parents to try your best to actually try to improve your child's skills in all areas at the same time. And I think that's what a good comprehensive ABA program does. You're working on you're working on cooperation, you're working on imitation, you're working on intention, you're working on communication. So all these are happening at the same time. And so then hopefully a child's overall awareness and overall skill sets is improving. They may, just naturally, incidentally, also be more open to trying new foods and to going from that. So I do really appreciate what you just shared, Kim. And I think in some cases where parents have persisted and it doesn't work, then are there things like feeding clinics? We don't have that in Malaysia, but we have heard of some families going to a feeding clinic. Could you just tell us a bit about that? I mean, if it gets really, really challenging, and at what age do we look into something like that?
Yeah, we have feeding clinics here in the US. So some feeding clinics have BCBAs like myself. Some have other dietitians and doctors and speech therapists and OTs on staff as well, that really can help support the individuals. It doesn't just have to be a child, right? Any individual that's really struggling with these feeding issues. There isn't usually a specific age that we say by this age we would go to a feeding center. I think it's really about how much has this been tried, how difficult is changing the child's diet, how limited is the diet, are there nutritional deficiencies that we're starting to see, right? Is the child not gaining weight, not staying healthy? Those would be some of the really big concerns that here in the US then we look to refer out to experts at those feeding clinics. I know some of the questions that you and I have talked about in the past and have come up with other clients that we've worked with are maybe those clients that are only drinking liquids or only eating really soft foods or gag when there's a new texture put into their mouth or they don't know how to chew it. That would be another time that we would refer to a feeding specialist or a speech therapist or even a pediatrician too, because the motor movements and the act of eating, chewing and swallowing, that's not our area of expertise as experts in the area of autism. So we want to refer out to always make sure that we get everything looked at and we kind of get the medical okay as well, because if a child doesn't know how to swallow, obviously we don't want to put them in danger. So we would want to have that checked out and looked at first before trying other foods, different textures, different ways of kiddos eating too. So those kind of both fall under, one is that feeding clinic, one is maybe just seeking out that medical support too, to make sure that it's not a motor issue, it's really a flexibility issue, and then we can step in and support with those behavioral aspects of it.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kim. And I hope that really clarifies for anyone watching this as well. I think, again, Autism at Home is designed to be a part of our nonprofit initiative through the Hope Project, and essentially to reach families who maybe cannot access good quality autism services, maybe due to resources or location. But as Kim is saying, that there are certain situations that really require that individualized, additional, really specific support, and it is medical with a team of professionals. Please do get that medical advice and support, especially for those situations that Kim just mentioned. Thank you so much for that, Kim. Is that quite common in the US to have feeding clinics? Are there like just 2 or 3 in the whole of the US, or is there like one in every city or every state? Sorry, we don't have them in Malaysia, so just wanted to check. Yeah.
They are more common. I know we have a few here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
There are some that are, more well-known than others, that have more experts, have been around longer, have different feeding treatments as well too. So it does vary, but I think there are quite a few. I don't know the exact numbers or how many, but I know of a few here in the state. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so then moving on to some questions that are more around eating routines or habits. What about children who may only drink milk from a milk bottle? Do you have any suggestions or strategies to transition off to a cup or just a water bottle? And again, with this would come in line with fading the milk bottle as well. Yeah, or even drinking from a different type of bottle. Yeah.
Right, right. Yep. And those, again, we're looking at those gradual changes. How can we gradually change from the current bottle that the child is drinking from and transition that to a different cup or a different type of bottle? They make different, the tops of the bottle, the nipples have different flow, kind of. I don't remember the exact term, but the way that the milk flows out of it. So for a newborn, it flows out a little bit slower. And then as the child gets older, the milk can flow out quite quickly too. So always looking at that, what kind of rate is the milk coming out of the bottle at? That's an important consideration to take into account when you're looking at different cups too. If you still are using the nipple that has the slow flow and you try to transition to an open cup, all the milk is just going to spill out, and that's going to set that child up for a pretty upsetting experience. They're not used to it. That's different than what they were expecting, and that's just not going to be a pleasant experience. So looking at how can we transition what's as similar to what we're at right now and transitioning to different cups. We've had kiddos where we've cut slowly off the top of the nipple of the bottle, and we've cut that off so that it gets open more and more and more. So it's still the bottle, but the child has to drink it a little bit differently. Again, trying different routines too. Do you still have to hold the child and kind of hold them back and rock them a little bit while they're drinking? Let's start to switch that routine. Maybe you're still holding them in your lap, but they're sitting up more and drinking out of a cup or drinking out of the bottle, and transitioning that way. And then again, bringing in that reinforcement, right? What is the reinforcement tied to this? Maybe it's a special drink too. Maybe it's a new cup and it's a special drink. It's chocolate milk, and they usually just get regular milk, but out of this cup, maybe they get chocolate milk. Maybe you try bringing in a special treat, or again, a special video. So you really want to bring in that reinforcement and make those small gradual changes to transition away from that bottle to a different type of cup, or even a different type of top on the bottle as well too, whatever will be easiest for the kiddo.
That's great, Kim. Thank you so much for that advice. And also with that, maybe even like you were saying about that pairing with reinforcement, if the cup was something reinforcing as well. I know some kids are like really into certain cartoons, whether it's Bluey or Minions. So you could get a cup that is like a Minion cup or something exciting and fun. But I guess on that note also, would that be a similar strategy to transition a child from maybe only drinking milk to actually drinking water? We have quite a few of our kiddos that refuse to drink anything, especially not drink water. Do you want to just share a few tips for that as well?
Yeah, I love that idea of making the cup itself reinforcing, or even the bottle, putting different stickers on it too, to, add in the characters. So that can be a really great way to build in reinforcement. For kiddos that are only drinking milk, and or only drinking a juice or 100 plus, something like that, and we want to transition to more water, we sometimes just do a mixture. So if you fill the bottle up almost all the way to the top with whatever the child is drinking, or the cup, whatever they're drinking out of, and then you add in just a little bit of water, and then you gradually start to play with that. So then it's eventually 50-50, and then you start to water down the milk and there's more water. Again, it's something that has to be done very gradually. You have to look at, how is my child responding to this? Are they still getting enough of the milk that they need? Especially for a lot of our kiddos, that's their main source of nutrients too. So we don't want to mess with that too much. Make sure that they're still getting the nutrition that they need. But that's been one strategy that I've used in the past as well, is just gradually adding in a little bit of water, watering down whatever substance the child is drinking, and then still allowing them to have some of their milk, right? Maybe a milk bottle in the morning with their breakfast, or at night before they go to bed. And then during the day, we're looking at trying to do more of the water substance instead. But that's how we do it. We vary it just a little bit, and eventually it gets to be more water than milk in the bottle.
Wow, that's
the cup, whatever they're drinking out of.
And Kim, that's so great. And does that has that been quite effective in your experience? It has. Do kids refuse it, or is it so gradual that they don't really notice it?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Okay.
I've had kiddos that have accepted it and it's
Yeah.
gone very well.
Yeah.
But then other kiddos where they can tell, even just with a
Yeah.
little
I was
bit,
just
they can
thinking.
tell. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then we need to bring in again those other reinforcement
Right.
strategies. What
Yeah.
else can we do? Again, maybe we're doing this outside on the swings, on the
Yeah.
trampoline. We're
Okay.
playing their favorite game. We're playing with their favorite person, with their favorite toys, doing their ABC activities, something that they really like.
Yeah.
So those would be good strategies too, to again just make the whole experience more reinforcing, more positive, more
Yeah.
fun for them, and then really going at a gradual pace.
Yeah.
And I think, Joe, like you brought up before, just because we tried it once and it wasn't successful, let's try it
Yeah.
again. Let's just
Yeah.
try it again. Maybe we try even a little less water the next time. Maybe it's just a couple drops of water, and we just gradually build up from there so that both families and the child can be successful.
Actually, thank you for reminding about that practice, Kim, because I was just speaking to someone even yesterday, and I think that's one of the reasons why ABA may be a little criticized in Malaysia, especially, or maybe people don't see the progress in certain ABA programs because it is not governed in the same way as it is in the US. Here, there might be certain centers that might just be providing 2 or 3 hours a week, or maybe even like just 2 or 3 times a week. And then you really don't see much of that progress. And I was just thinking for something like feeding and all, because the recommended hours is 30 hours a week for that golden window for children to really do that whole catch up and that whole progress that we see in the research. But let's say we speak specifically about how that looks like for eating, because it's the same with speech as well. Even seeing a most wonderful speech therapist, but a very experienced, very talented speech therapist. But if you're seeing that speech therapist only 1 hour a week, that's just not enough to turn the tide of the remainder of the hours every single day that the child is not participating in that practice, right? So when it comes to eating specifically, would you say that how something like what you just shared about the drinking water practice, would that be done like, of course it's not like once a week or even once a day, would we try to do it like every hour, or how in general, maybe just general rule of thumb for parents watching, or even teachers or even other centers practicing this as well?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And as much practice as we can get, the better, especially for our kiddos that have these really strict routines. And like you said, we are trying to help them build that tolerance. And you can't really do that if you're just doing it once or twice a week, even really once a day. So the more that you can practice that, the better. And that doesn't mean, again, that they only will get the milk that's watered down. That's not all that they get to drink, but we're offering it. Every time they're showing that maybe they're thirsty, we're offering that. We give it a try. We, again, show that reinforcement, like, hey, okay, let's go drink our, I don't know what you would want to call it, our drink, our special drink. Let's go drink it outside on the swings. Let's go drink it on the trampoline. Let's go sit by the pool. Something fun. Let's do something fun with it. Build in that reinforcement, and you offer it and you give it a try and you see. And then, if they're still not receptive to that, again, making sure they're still getting their daily intake of liquids and foods. That's always important as well. But if you have those opportunities to practice it, it would really be the more you can do it, the better. And again, I know as a parent myself, it's hard to work these things into your daily routines, to find time for these extra things. So then even think about, how can I build these into the routines that I already have? Again, that morning routine, breakfast routine, snack, lunch, afternoon snack, dinner time, bedtime. It could be 5 or 6 opportunities per day.
Yeah, that's really, that's very, very helpful, because not all families are in an intensive therapy program. So then what we hope to do on Autism at Home is empower parents to be able to do that throughout their day. So I love how you just itemize that. You could do it at breakfast, you could do it at the first snack, lunchtime, second snack, and then dinner, and maybe sometimes they have a bit of supper, so that's like 6 times. And even what you said, Kim, about that whole playground idea, that's a great idea, because if a child was, let's say we're trying to water down Ribena, or a juice drink. In Malaysia, we drink a lot of Ribena. I'm not sure in the US, but basically like a juice drink or something, like a cordial. And the child only drinks that cordial. But you're at the playground. I love that idea, because the child could be like running and sweaty and thirsty. And that might be the best time to actually have a few sips and practice till they maybe even finish up their drink. And if we went to the playground, maybe twice a day or at least once a day, but throughout the day. And in a full program that we do, which is like 6 hours a day, which is pretty, I'm sure it's the same in the US, then we would try to do this every hour. So that would be 6 practices on top of what the family would be practicing as well. So that's just so important. I feel like in summary, it really boils down to those key strategies that we have seen work time and time again. Breaking it down, making it very gradual, making it very, very simple, easy, successful for the child to progress, adding that reinforcement, and then ensuring there is that practice. So then I think, you spoke a little bit about nutrition earlier with the milk and all. Some of our kiddos let's say, in this whole process that might take some time, what if they really are only drinking milk or only eating biscuits, and parents are quite concerned about their nutrition? Some families do ask us, should they start taking supplements, and so on. What are your thoughts on that? Or is that something really we should leave to like a doctor?
Yeah, I would refer to the pediatrician and the family doctor to give the recommendation on what supplements they need, what vitamins they might need to take to round out their diet. So, and we can help support the families if the kiddos are not willing to take those or eat those. We can come up with a, reinforcement system, make it fun, make it look like it's exciting. We can help with that, but I definitely would refer to the medical specialist.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, Kim. Okay, maybe one more on a slightly touchier topic, which is the GFCF diet. I know we've had that conversation over the years. It seems to be not as intense as it used to be, the conversations around it, and maybe the promotion around it. But of course, families still would ask, is it safe? Is it required? And I think previously it was very... there was a lot of passionate communication around how it can really heal kids with autism, and so on. So I think just to hear from you, firstly, whether there's any new research that we haven't heard of, or, and your thoughts around that.
Yeah, it is a hot topic. And I get it. As a parent, you want to do everything for your child. You want to do everything to make sure that you're doing what's right, that you're giving them the best opportunities possible, and you're not missing anything. But with the gluten-free, casein-free diet, there is no research to show that it improves symptoms of autism, that it has any connection to bettering your child's life that, is on the autism spectrum. So the research does not support that. And if you do look up some of the research that's out there, a lot of the medical experts, they will caution against it, because again, then it takes out some nutrients and some nutrition from the diet. And as we're talking about today, many of the kiddos on the spectrum, many of the individuals on the spectrum already have a very limited diet, and they may not be getting a well-balanced diet to begin with. So then just eliminating maybe some of the foods that they eat could be taking out even more nutrients too. And it could be accidentally enhancing their food selectivity too. So there is no research to support it as, something that helps with the symptoms of autism. Obviously, if your child is allergic to dairy products or allergic to gluten, we support not giving that to them as part of their diet. But as, a treatment for autism, it's not a supported system.
Okay, thank you so much, Kim, for that. And I think that reminder that back to the child's individual needs. So if a child is lactose intolerant or has allergies, like whether it's peanut allergies or any sort of allergies, then of course you'd want to avoid and refrain from those things. And it's similar, I feel, we've spoken of, in the past of if a child has a toothache, you have that has to be resolved. If not, that is the cause of challenging behaviors. And so it'll be the same with this, whether it's food related, whether it's physiological related, temperature related. Some children need glasses. I wear glasses, of course, contacts at the moment, but in order to learn. So it really is that anything to do with the diet, anything to do with health and all go back to medical professionals. Thank you so much, Kim, for that. I think it's been so insightful and so helpful. We just have a few more questions that I think are quite similar. Like, let's say it's things like eating. A child only eats with their hands. How do they introduce cutlery? Or a child can't stay seated at their meal time, or a child only eats with the iPad on. I think while they are different, they are similar in the sense of they are already a routine that the child is currently doing, and we're trying to teach a new routine. And it sounds like it would be similar to how you answered the other questions and the similar strategies, but maybe you want to just give, a broad key strategy, whether it's trying to teach eating cutlery, trying to teach eating at the table, trying to teach eating without screens.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes back to some of the things we've talked about already, is that gradual process. So whether it's introducing the cutlery, do that very gradually. Maybe we just have them sitting out on the table. There's no expectation that the child uses them at first. Maybe you introduce them regarding play. We're scooping with dried beans or dried pasta, dried rice or sand. We're scooping it. We're playing with it with Play-Doh. If it's sitting without a screen time, again, we're gradually fading that off. Maybe they sit for almost the whole meal time with the screen time, and the last bite we take off the screen time, and we gradually decrease the amount of time. With the screen time, it would be beneficial to have them have the screen in the beginning and then fade it off towards the end of the routine, because then again you can tie in that reinforcement. So look, you have one bite of food left. Okay, we turn the iPad off, they take that last bite of food, and then maybe there's that additional reinforcement that they get to, their little treat, their little candy. Nice job eating, and it's the last 2 bites, the last 3 bites. So it's just very gradual. Same thing for sitting for mealtime. We can't go from, a lot of our kiddos love to run around. They take a little bite and they go and they play and they come back and take a bite. We can't go from that to expecting them to sit for the whole mealtime. That's too big of a change. That would be a big change for anyone. So have them sit for 1 bite, or while they take the last bite, or while they're just chewing for a few seconds, and then they get to go play, and gradually build it up. So everything gradual. Build off of what your child is already doing, incorporate these skills as much as you can, bring in that reinforcement and bring in that fun kind of play aspect for everything that we've talked about today.
Wow, that's great, Kim. That's so, and each of them also will need like a kind of a systematic broken down step, because I think sometimes as a parent listening, or maybe even a teacher, you might be hearing these strategies and then you're like, okay, let's do them all at the same time. And we might just choose one of the 3. So maybe just the cutlery one, or just the sitting at the table, or just the iPad. And I think as you were sharing that also, I love that idea of like the cutlery, to actually get used to using cutlery, not to actually feed, but just to scoop and play. And that's how we do like hair cutting tolerance. You just have the items out, you pretend to do it for like a baby doll or not yourself, and you're actually still building that whole gradual exposure and desensitization. I love that reminder on how effective that can be. And also just the one more thought I had was, sometimes for children in therapy sessions, it can be easier to actually do it during therapy, right? Because you bring in you introduce cutlery, for example, in their therapy room at the table, where maybe there's a higher sense of cooperation, a higher sense of I'm here to learn, versus at the dining table during mealtime. So even that can be a bit of a more broken down approach. And there was one more thought that I also wanted to ask you, Kim, and that's surrounding visuals. In each of these strategies and all, would you say that it would be effective if we had even like a simple social story, or a simple video model, or a simple visual, like a first eat at the table, then go run around, or first eat 2 bites and then you get iPad? What would you say?
Absolutely. Visuals are always helpful. We use them with so many of the clients that we work with. And I know we've talked about it before. We still use visuals during our day-to-day to know how to do something. How often do we go to YouTube and say, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? You look up things online. You watch other people do it. Oh, show me how you did that. So visuals are a wonderful strategy for everyone to use. So the more we can incorporate visuals to lay out what the expectations are, both for the child and the family, family, and then looking at what is to come next. What's that fun thing that comes next? If I try this little hard thing, okay, now I get fun things. It wasn't that bad. I can do this. So it can be really great to have visuals on your side.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so anyone, tuning in today, you can always go back and look at the units on cooperation. We have a unit that teaches all about things like first stand boards. There's a whole unit on making visuals as well, social stories, and also parents can be empowered and just follow along with those. They've been very, very effective. And we've had situations where we just have the visual up and where we can fade ourselves back. And a child can still respond and still be independent based on the visuals. So I really love the reminder that we ourselves use visuals. I mean, even now I've got notes up, we use watches, we use calendars, we need notes, we have directions. I think just a couple more last ones. And one is, I guess, the one difficult one is for, let's say, children that love to eat. So the other end of the spectrum, and they basically eat everything they see, or maybe they don't know how to tell that their stomach is full. That may be a slightly more complex one. How would we work that out with children on, like, would we just manage their portion control? But what if they, just grab food from the fridge and essentially just eat everything that's given, even if they are full, or even if it's like too much? Maybe the parents are concerned, oh, that's too much.
Yeah, I think too with this one, I would also want to refer out to a doctor as well, because sometimes that overeating can be a sign of other disorders. And again, that would be something we would want to be looked into that may need other medical treatments to help support that. If we get the all clear, the doctor says, yeah, this is probably just there's nothing else going on here. There are no other medical conditions. This is just related to their routines and their behavioral reinforcement that they have. They like eating, they like food. Then that's when we could look to put a program into place or some strategies into place to support that. So things we've done in the past are, again, those visuals showing what we can eat or when it's time to eat. Maybe having a variety of healthy choices available too. So if the child is hungry or they want to eat again, at least they're choosing something like an apple or a banana, something that's very healthy for them, and having those visuals to show how much they can eat, when those meal times are. So perhaps a schedule so they know when that next snack or meal time is coming. And then again, like I said, checking in with the doctor too to make sure that they are getting the appropriate amount of nutrition. We're not overeating. We're not, causing an obesity problem, things like that, but just kind of limiting some of those strategies and working closely with the medical professional, because that's on the kind of the other end of the spectrum too, that overeating versus that undereating. They both are paused to make sure we're on the right track with nutrition.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Kim, because in some of the situations as well, I think that's so wise to just seek medical support first. And in some cases, sometimes we've found that the children are eating out of maybe boredom. They don't have much activity, so then they're just eating, but then you're suggesting to put some healthier choices out instead and really monitor that, because obesity is a big concern, and just making sure that it's part of their daily routine as well. We try to have some movement and some physical activities, especially as our children become no longer toddlers, no longer children. We work with individuals all the way up to 35 as well, and some as they become teens, as they start to put on weight as well. So we want to make sure that they're healthy. And so thank you so much for that reminder. And I think just in closing, like, I guess in terms of expectation for families out there, for something as really like those children that really refuse to eat any foods, what kind of timeline are we talking to keep persisting? Because I know for some of our families, they may maybe have the expectation that it'll be like something that could be changed quite quickly. I mean, we would hope so too as clinicians, but I know sometimes it takes a very long time. So what kind of, I guess, range of hours or range of years are we talking about?
Yeah, and that's a hard question to answer. You always give me the hard questions, Joe. But it's really going to be based on the individual child and how well we can build up that tolerance. But I always like to give parents the kind of heads up that it can take a while. Yeah. This is something that's really hard, and it's not, we can't have the child see what it tastes like, see what the food feels like, because we're not going to shove it into their mouth, right? We are absolutely not force feeding our children and the individuals that we're working with. We want to make it a very positive experience, a very gradual experience. And so we have to take it at the child's pace. So it can take quite a while. So I would really, really encourage you as a family to not give up. If you maybe need a little break from it because you feel it's not going well or it's really stressful, it's really difficult to add into your routines, take a little break with the plan to come back to it in a few weeks, in a month. Start with new visuals, get a new cup with new Bluey characters, find new chocolates that the kiddo might like, find new places that they might want to eat the foods, find a new McDonald's container, find a new McDonald's restaurant. There's so many ways, if you think about things, how you can make small variations to try and make your child, successful and less stressful for everyone. So don't give up. It can take time, but we have seen a lot of progress with our kiddos over the years just by being consistent and really sticking with it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kim. And I think when Kim is saying all these different strategies, it is true. Some of our kids have taken years, and I am reminded that one of our students that maybe only ate biscuits, I think about after 5 or 6 years in the program, and of course learning everything else as well, he did start to shift in flexibility, and he started to improve in flexibility. And then one day he suddenly ate a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then he was willing to eat more and more and more. And then it was like the floodgates open, and he was willing to eat a huge range of foods after that. But the parents, together with the team, were so faithfully dedicated and committed to practicing, being consistent. Even grandma was involved. And I think that piece is so important, that consistency and everyone being on the same page. Well, thank you so much, Kim. We've really received so much great advice and strategies, and I think specifically surrounding small gradual changes, but regular and frequent enough so that a child gets sufficient practice, and also very, very important to be paired with reinforcement. I think sometimes that can still be an area of resistance in maybe it's our Asian upbringing and so on, that we don't need reinforcement or we don't need visuals. But when we realize how much more successful it helps our children, our students learn, why not we use what will help them be so successful and help them overcome some of these extremely challenging areas. The use of visuals, fun ideas, pairing it with reinforcement, they're all really, really great. And so please do put in the comments below if you have any additional questions. Put in the comments below if you found this helpful, and most importantly, if you would like to have Kim on again. We're thinking actually to do a live webinar the next time. We have a new series coming up very, very soon, B29, and that is going to be all about sleep related challenges. And so you can even start putting in your questions today. We'll definitely try and do a live webinar with Kim this time, so you can come on and put your questions live as well. Thank you so much, Kim. We really appreciate having you on, and we will see you all very, very soon.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Also, we thank you for your support, and with the amount of interest we have received online, we have actually started providing online services, and have worked over the years with clients in other states of Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, China, Kuwait, New Zealand, and Switzerland. So do scan the QR code below and get in touch with us for more information. If you haven't already, do check out our free online resource platform, Autism at Home, which has all the corresponding articles and downloadables for you. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram and Facebook to stay updated. Take care, and we will see you soon.